Hey, good afternoon everybody. David here at Scale Models Midwest. Welcome back to the workbench. Hope you're having a great Labor Day weekend. I am down here in my basement right now, just kind of looking over what all I've done. So I kind of give you a little update of what I got going on right now. I am currently building AMT's 1/25th scale Mach 1 Mustang funny car. And I thought it was going to be a pretty cool kit to build. And there are some little things to note on this kit that if you're building this one, kind of, little caveats. For starters, it's not a funny car body. The body of this car literally is, I think, AMT's stock Mach 1 Mustang. Now, I look at the lines, it has that here, and in the box art, it doesn't have this. So I'm going to leave this here. So I'm going to kind of do the chrome foil, pick out the details and whatnot. It also has side marker lamps, which are not on the funny car. I don't think they're on any funny car unless they're a decal. Hood, obviously, it's open versus being molded as part of a funny car body. And yet I went on ahead and got that painted. I will glue it to the car and make it permanent. Maybe. I might actually leave it to where I can open it and you can see the Logi chassis that's underneath this. It's a nice, nicely detailed body. I got a couple pictures that I'll post on this, but I started off by cleaning up all the lines. I also took off the windshield wipers, sanded that smooth, and then the front cowl, I went on ahead and filled that in best I could. It's not perfect, but I did use Tamiya putty for that, let it dry, sanded it down and smooth. The paint, I started off with a couple of coats of Tamiya gray primer, fine, and sanded that with 3200 grit. Then I went on ahead and applied the gloss aluminum from Tamiya, let that dry after a couple of coats, and then I decanted Tester's Model Master Flame Red. I've got 3 coats total, and I think it covered really well. It dries to a nice little sheen, so once I decal this and then clear it, then it's going to really pop. Looked at the fact that this thing has about 3 or 4 different inserts that you could do for the funny car. If you see right there, they've got that. They've got inserts for the even smaller version, and they also have like little front pan. I decided I wasn't going to use those. I decided I'm going to use the stock front grille, and I just did a little black wash on it with some thinned Tamiya black. I did the same thing with the rear tail lamp panel. I believe there's also a rear insert for this if you wanted to, for a real funny car. But again, I'm building it the way I want to build it. I'm just gonna have a little fun with this one. The tires on this, they are pad printed M&H Race Masters. They look pretty sharp. Got a little bit of a wash on the rims. I couldn't tell you what kind of wheels are on this, but got thin spokes for up front. Looks like they're spindle mount, and then the rears, nice little deep dish. As you can see, there's not a lot of parts on this thing. Probably about 80 parts total, I think. All the stuff painted. I got the rear end, a little bit of paint detail on that, paint detail on the rear hubs and brakes, parachute, and then down here I have the chassis kind of mocked up. Nothing's in place, but just to kind of see what it would look like. But if I start taking parts off, moving off to the side, the aluminum tin here that would go in the body before mounting to the chassis, I've got that as Tamiya gloss aluminum, and I'm not clearing that, just leaving it as it is. The roll cage I just did in both semi-gloss and flat black. I used the mounting points of the interior tub to put together the framework of the roll cage, and that worked out pretty well, so I can glue that in place when it's ready. I did the seat, some light paint detail with some gloss black, and then dry brushing the seatbelt latches. And as you see, as we pull this off here, this is the standard, I think, hopefully I pronounce it right, Logi chassis. I've got that also in decanted flame red. Just a couple quick coats on that. Did some paint detailing with it as well. Still have a little bit of paint detailing left. Since it's not a one-piece assembly, I would recommend using a jig. I did not have a jig or flat surface with little magnets that I could kind of keep everything in place, but I did get it put together. I started inside and worked my way out. First of all, with these two center sections, which were the drive shaft loop, and then what is going to be the transmission mount. Once I had those in place and everything was, you know, nice and neat, I went on ahead and put this in. Just make sure you're looking at the instructions. There's little notches in the frame that goes into just fine. Finally finished up with this over here. Now for the ends here and up front, I did use some CA glue and some accelerator to hold those in place because it is narrower back here than it is up front, obviously to accommodate the 429 Boss engine. As you can see there, I've already got the magneto and the fuel pump in place, some paint detail. I still have to do some cleanup on it. I have the air cleaner or bug catcher up top, sent off to the side. I still have to put this together. And then of course over here I have the headers, which instead of being in white, I just did them in titanium. So I kind of think it looks pretty sharp. But ultimately, I think once I start to put this together, get the decals on and cleared, it's going to start to come together real nice. It's going to be a nice looking kit for the shelf. So we'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so besides this, I've been working on the actual workbench and the stuff around it because I just want to kind of get an idea on how much space I'm going to need from when wife and I start to work on getting our basement finished. So I figured a 10 by 10 area for me would be fine. But how can I be sure? I mean, I've got this folding table, 6-foot folding table that I use for my main workbench. And over here I've got an 8-foot heavy-duty tabletop. Starts here with my airbrush stand. And kind of moving along the way as I've reorganized some things, I managed to get my airbrush compressor tucked off in the corner. There's my airbrush that I've got drying as I've cleaned it up. It's ready to go for the next kit. And then here I bought from Menards this little shoe stand thing for 12 bucks. I got that, and I might actually get a couple more as I get some of the paints from Scale Finishes. But right now I've got my Tamiyas here, some of my remaining testers, and of course my Rust-Oleums. You know, I've got my computer, so I've watched my YouTube stuff and listened to music while I'm doing the kits. And then over here in the corner, all my Salvino's JR kits that I've yet to build, almost to the ceiling. I think I've got about 55 kits from Salvino's JR that I have yet to build, but in due time. Over here, of course, I've got my Ron Keselowski 99 Charger, and one of my favorite kits that I built of all time. It's not the most detailed one, but it's one where I did my first ever two-tone paint, and that was my Buick Riviera. And of course, my signed Richard Petty 200th race winner, which I'll never build. Just going to sit there. Of course, got a little die cast, a little anime figurine that my daughter got for me. And then again, all these shop cards. I got a couple of shelving units, and I'll show you the one here. Built kits all up here on this shelf that I've built over the past few years. About half of them, maybe more than half of them, over the past 2.5 years on the channel. And as you can see, there's quite a few. And of course, I've got some empty space. Hopefully that'll all be filled up by the end of the year. Stuff that's in progress, stuff that's been built. And this is just a fraction of what I've got. Up here is one shelf. I just used some foam board for just a base. And then I have all these kits that I've built. That GTO Judge I actually got at a yard sale. It's a Franklin Mint or Danbury Mint. Love it. Over here, got a Hemi Cuda convertible, one of my favorite cars of all time. And I got that at a model car show over at Hobby Haven. There's the first vehicle I ever put on the channel was my Foos Ford, one of my favorite vehicles. I've got like 3 unbuilt kits of that, which I'm going to eventually build. And of course, nice little variety of kits. There's the Corvette that I won in my first ever model car show last year. And of course, all these Salvino JR kits, little Corvette, and across the side. And then a little Dodge D50 truck. Kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. One of my favorite kits there is the number 28 Teflon Pontiac Le Mans. And then, of course, that one right there is my Super B, which I also love. Second shelf, of course, you see here, I've got the 2 Mustangs that I built this year. Apache, my Street Fighter Vet. Another one of my favorite kits, the old Cutlass W30. Another kind of like a locally sponsored one. That's Houseby Mach Roadrunner. My storied Chevy Nova 2. A Bronco. That Pontiac right there, Craftsman Series car. That is a really nice car. Simple build. I love it. And then the California Street Vet, which I will not rebuild. That's just one of the things I've always wanted. It's kind of like that Holy Grail kit. I finally found one. Got it. There's another one of my story cars. The Girls Weekend Racer. And then these 2 kits right here, they're on deck to be fixed, rebuilt. These were on a shelf upstairs. We were getting some hardy plank siding put on our house last year. And unfortunately, I forgot to take these off the shelf, realizing that directly on the other side of that wall, we had the people banging on the wall, putting the new hardy plank in. Knocked these things right off the shelf and they broke into pieces. I do have most of them put back together, but I've got to take that left front wheel off of the 32 Ford, put it back on, got to get the headlamps reassembled. Same thing with the Wild Willie Borsche Altered T. I got to get that one worked on. Way cool kit there. If you ever get a chance to build the Lotus 7, get it and build it. And these little Airfix cars, I love them. This was one I built. I talked some other people into getting some small kits. They like them as well. They've actually come out with a couple of new ones here, so I'm thinking of checking them out. One of my all-time favorite kits was one I actually built recently. That was the Toyota Supra. And right next to that, another one of my favorites is the Tyson Porsche. That one is a very sharp car. And then most recently is the Davey Allison number 28, which I've wanted to build for such a long time. Hamlin's 11. And then down here at the bottom, I have on deck stuff. This is still that work in progress. That is the King of the Mountain 67 Corvette that Dennis Hopper drove. I still have to get a lot of stuff for that. I really want to do that one up right, but I'm having such a hard time trying to find good tires and rims for it. Box down here, I've got some empty prescription bottles I'm going to use for wheel tubs. I saw that on a YouTube video, and I got a couple of bottles of Scale Finishes paint down there that I've got for future kits. Here I've got some of Jim Rogers' box of crap and the Street Drifter Chevy truck, which I'm actually going to start building here in the very near future. And then some more of my on-deck stuff. This Bob Glennon Thunderbird, I actually picked this up recently at an auction done online. It's missing the tires and wheels, but it's got everything else. So I'm actually going to use this kit as the basis for a kit that I'm building in the future. I've got to place an order for that, and once I get the parts, I'll show you what it is. Another one on deck is the Bobby Isaac 71 Dodge Charger, done up in poppy red. I've got an idea that I'm going to do with the 88 Mustang. And then finally, I've got the Mazda Miata that I also plan. Then, of course, can never have enough reference materials. Got a bunch of Scale Auto Mags, a couple of hot rods in there, some Hemmings. So I'm using those for inspirations and ideas for future builds. And finally, across the way, you see I've got a little table right there with my Holy Grail '78 Corvette that is in mint condition. I will probably not build that anytime soon. I've got some kits behind it that I will eventually build, and then all those stuff in bags. There's still for the make and take that I have yet to plan for. That tray there still has some kits in it. I've got to get yet another shelf. Ultimately, that's what I've got for the workbench. I mean, it's a lot more organized than it was. That's what I've been up to. That and just keep busy at work. My daughter went back to college last week, so I was really focused on making sure she got into classes okay. And now that she's in classes okay, I'm going to get back to hitting the model kits and start getting them built, because I've got about 3 or 4 of them backed up that I want to start working on. And yeah, I just ordered another kit. So going to kind of keep you eyed up on what I'm doing. In the meantime, keep liking and subscribing to the channel. Keep telling your friends about the channel. Go check out all these other YouTubers that are building their cool kits. And with that, catch you on the next video. Have a great rest of the weekend.